All right, so now that we're all here, we can do the fun stuff. And the fun stuff in this case, not that what we did before wasn't fun, but the fun stuff in this particular case is fixing or facelifting a unit that was shipped with Forged Alliance but didn't get that much love from developers. And in this particular example, it is the XAB3301, which is the UEF Quantum Optics Facility. So let's just see what we have, right? This is the current version of the XAB3301. And when we try to spawn that unit in, we can immediately see one big issue. That is that the unit is not centered in its building skirt. And the building skirt is unbelievably big in comparison to the unit. That doesn't make a lot of sense, right? So that's already an issue. And then you would expect some fancy animation like you would have with, for example, the shield generator. If it is charged with some power, right? And the on shield, do shield things, please. Did I do something silly? Oh, there, it needs 10% of the storage, of course. So, right, the shield has all these cool effects on it, but if we enable this fella, you know, nothing really happens. So that's a bit dull, right? If you look, for example, at the bones, there aren't actually any bones, just some target bones, so that all the angry units have different targets to fire at this quantum optics facility. Not that you really get to see it because it only has like 250 health, but there's not really much going on with this unit. And besides the fact that it has several things that just look a bit odd. Like, for example, if you look right now here, then I can put 2 PGens here, but I cannot put 2 PGens there before I reach the unit. So it's not even centered. And it has this large skirt. There's no animations. There's no effects. So let's pimp this unit. Let's make that unit feel more part of the game. And we're going to do that by restarting Forged Alliance, because Mad Max, one of contributors to the project and part of the creative team, has already done some work. Make sure to check his video on the FAF YouTube on how he set up the bones and how he did the vertex groups. And we are going to finalize his work to make it animated and make the unit a bit more flashy. So let's check out on his commit. There we are. So let's close all of this, and then let's go to the unit that we are interested in most tonight, and that is this little fella. Let's get started. So I'm gonna do some things that are not related to balance, and I'm gonna do some things that I suppose are related to balance because it changes the gameplay, which means I gotta discuss that with the balance team at some point, so we will not get to the point where we can actually merge these changes, but we're just gonna do them and see what we end up with, and then we can discuss that, or I can discuss that with the balance team in question. Let's start with what we have right now. Eye of Rihanna. Just to check, you can see that now there are a lot more bones set up, right? So we have these little lights, and we have some spinners that we can use, and we have this centerpiece that has its own spinner right now, and we have some effects nodes that we can put effects on, and there is an animation file for us to use. So let's look at the skirt first. And the skirt was fact that it's really large for the unit, right? The average unit has a skirt that's roughly the same size of the unit, but this one is a bit of an outsider. I would argue that it is bigger than a Tech 1 power generator, but it's smaller, but it's roughly the size of a Tech 2, right? This is roughly the size that you would expect this to be in comparison to a FAF. Otherwise, which is this. This is too small, this is too big, but we're going to go for the bigger one. So let's look at this unit right here. Now let's open it up, power generator. And this is units Aeon building. So we want this one. So let's save that. And there's a couple of things that we want to copy from this unit. So first of all, the footprint. I'm going to say some things wrong here. The footprint determines, I think, the size quantum optics facility. No, the footprint determines where the unit is in the skirt. Not really sure, but if we look at the skirt of the power generator here, which is somewhere here, and we just copy that into our physics section, you can see right here it's 1010, which is really big. And now we create a quantum optics facility. You can see that the skirt has changed. Now it's the same size and it's in the center. It's properly centered. Now we have the issue that the tarmac, which is the decal that's underneath the unit, is so big that it essentially gets outside of the skirt places. So we're not just going to copy the skirt and the footprint of the power generator, but we're also going to copy the tarmacs, which is right here. Tarmacs, there we go. So let's make another one. Let's make it right next to it. So now you can see that we've got a smaller tarmac. It now fits with the size of the skirt. So that makes more sense right now. And now we've got to do a bit of digging into the code. So first of all, the quick wins. We have a ball here in the center, and we'd like to move that. And we have a power generator here that kind of does that. So we can just copy this script here, go to our own script, change the comments to dash dash because that's better highlighting. And then here in the onStop being built is function with some parameters, we can copy that code in. Now the question is, what are these parameters? And what we're gonna do during this session is we're gonna use the fact that we have a massive code base with tons of examples. So I'm just gonna do Ctrl+Shift+F, search for examples, and here we can see that the onStop being built function has the self, builder, and layer arguments. So here we have self, builder, layer. Now when we create a function in our own local specification, it is always important to call the base function. So we're just going to do that. A structure unit, because that is the base function right here. onStop being built, self, builder, layer. And the reason this is important is because we want to make sure that this function does all the logic that it has to do so that the unit is properly initialized. All right, and now self.trash is part of the unit definition. So here we can see, right, or during onCreate of the unit class, we create this trash bag. So we know this one exists, and we add a rotator to ourself on the sphere. So if we look at create rotator, then we have unit, bone, axis, goal speed, acceleration, goal speed. So in this case, we have unit, ourself, bone, which in this example is the sphere here in the center, but we don't do spheres. We have spin 02, spin 02. And then this is the behavior of the other ball. So let's just keep that in. See what happens if we make a new unit. And there we can now see that we got the ball moving. It's not very impressive yet, but it's a good start. Now we need to understand how this unit actually works. Because if we, for example, start our journey of spying on our enemies, what function causes that to happen, and can we book that function? Can we override that function or add definitions to that function so that we can start the open animation and the close animation and all the fancy stuff that we would like to do? So let's look at the hierarchy. We have remote viewing, and the structure unit that we have uses the remote viewing as its base class, and we use that as our base class. So let's look at this remote viewing. This is a class, a function that returns a class. Interesting pattern. And it overrides a whole bunch of functions, but not entirely. Stuff.sync.abilities, remote viewing data, viewing functions, on killed, then we remove the satellite too. On target location, okay. Create visible entity, okay. Disable visible entity, fair enough. On Intel enabled, on Intel disabled, this is where we create and disable that visible entity. Disable resource monitor. Oh, this consumes the resources. As long as it can consume, then it will do that. Otherwise, it will disable the visible entity. And it's enabled when we probably start. Oh, it tries to enable itself again. Okay. So we've got two important functions: create visible entity and disable visible entity. And we're going to use those as hooks so that we can add our own logic into that. So let's look at that. We can do is function self. And then it's always important to immediately call the base function with the same arguments. And then we have another one of these, which is disable visible entity. And just to make sure, let's just log these to guarantee that we are on the right track here. Quantum optics facility. Poof. There we go. Create visible entity, and if you would stop skyring, then we get disable visible entity. Okay. So now we know that if we are looking at things, then that function is called. Oh, that's interesting. So now it is called, but we don't have an actual entity. That's interesting. So apparently there is an if statement. If not, so we probably want to use that too, or we get some weird stuff. So if we have this, then it's log statement. Right? Because we want to make sure that we actually create okay, so let's see. So that one works. Now I disable it. Oh, it still gets created for some reason. Okay, but we're not seeing it. So if dot visible disable counter is 0, let's just add all of these to it. All right. Another attempt. There we go. So this one works as expected. We disable it and now we try it. All right, and now it doesn't trigger, right? Because we only want it to trigger when we actually have the visibility. Okay, so that's pretty epic. So everything that we do in here is going to happen when we actually have some visible area. So what do we want? Well, we have this open up animation that MatMax made. Let's look at it real quick, which is this animation right here. And we want to play this animation when we are actually scrying, right? When we are actually looking through the map. I think this is called scry. Yeah, scrying, which is also a Magic the Gathering ability where you can see the next few cards top of your deck. Now you know. So we want to use that animation. Now there is a function called create animator. There you go. And again, we don't have to reinvent the wheel here. So that's really nice. We have a ton of examples. We can see that the basis is just create animator something. So here we go. Self.animator is create animator self. And we're going to make sure that we add that to the trash in case we die. And then here, self.animator, we want to play an animation. Play anim, there it is. Play anim. And then usually they use a blueprint for that, but we're just going to cheat this in right now, because we are on the clock. So we have XAB3301 and then we have name of the file here. Here we go. And we set the rates to 0, because the moment that we initialize the animator, we don't want it to actually animate. We want it to animate the moment that we start scrying. So here we set the rate to 1, and if we disable it, then we set the rate to -1. So let's see what happens with our quantum place it on a extractor depot. And by all means, we did so well that we have an error. So let's see what we have. Set rate. Oh, I made a typo. Yes. And this one opens up immediately. Trash, nice. Self.trash. Right. Ads. Okay, so you know. There you go. Ta-da. Okay, so the animation doesn't work right off the bat, which is what we wanted, right? We only wanted to show when we start scrying. Yes, typos all over the place. That is how I roll. And there we go. It opens up. And now we disable it. And it closes again. Beautiful. But we can do more. What can we do more? Well, it would be, we could, for example, move the base and move the top. So let's look at how we can do that. Self.rotator bottom is create rotator base because effort. And then we have spin 01. We want it to rotate around the y-axis. For your idea, the y-axis usually points up, whereas the x-axis usually is one direction in the plane, and the z-axis is the other one that's orthogonal. But usually y is up. And we want it to be, what was the, right? This is our own personal Stack Overflow of examples of how this code is being run. We've got a goal, we've got the speed, we've got acceleration and goal speed. So we have no speed initially. No, we got 50 speed. No, wait, 50 acceleration, and we've got a goal speed. So we can say 20, 20. So now we create a rotator on spin 01. So let's just see how that looks like if we just have this. So now we can see that the bottom part is rotating. Now it's rotating fairly slow. I wanted to rotate just a tiny notch slower because we wanted to rotate faster the moment that we turn on the device. So right now it's very slow. We can do the same thing for the top, which is spin 03 if I recall correct. There it is, spin 03. And for your idea, it's Alt V to show the bone, since Alt B for the bone names. And you can find all of these handy little hotkeys by going to the hotkeys menu here. We've got debug, got all kinds of stuff here. And there's like toggle collision debug information, that's the blue boxes that we saw earlier. Toggle bone display for all units. And toggle off the AI. Toggle the weapon arc debug information. Ooh, gotta see that one. Mantis. Let's go. Give me that weapon arc debug information. Control Shift. What am I doing wrong? Weapon. Well, you know, I'm not seeing it. Oh well. But say again. I'm sharing, right? Yeah. Okay. I was. You scared me there. Don't do that. Oh, that's fair enough. But here we have the bottom part rotating. So now let's do the top. Well, it's bottom, and we would like that to be at -2, -4, so that it rotates into the other direction. And quantum optics facility. You don't need more mantis. So there we go. It's rotating fairly slowly. Now the rotators have additional properties that we can change. See animation bone, slide rotate manipulator. We can set the acceleration and the speed accordingly. So for example, the moment that we turn these things on, then we probably go self.rotor bot. Oops. Set speed to maybe 12, right? Because it's 6 here. So let's set it to 12. And then here we want to set this one to -8. And then here, when we disable them again, we'd like to set them to 6 and -4. Now, I'm not entirely sure if this is going to work as I expect it to. Nope. That didn't quite work. Top. But primarily because I don't want to set the speed, I want to set the goal. No. The goal speed. Set target speed. That's the one I want. There we go. So now it's just rotating, and now I start scrying, and now it rotates slightly faster. Now I stop scrying, and now it rotates slowly again. See that? Now it's rotating the other direction. That's impressive too. Huh? Right, please. What am I doing wrong here? Set target speed. Oh. top. All right. Attempt number 18. So rotating slowly, and now they rotate slightly faster, and now I disable it, and now it rotates slowly again, just to give it a more of a feeling to it. Now I want to copy some of the effects of the shields. If we, for example, take this fella, then this little circle sphere thing in the center does this really cool halo effect around it. And I'm just gonna check how that shields of light does that so that we can steal that. Yes, of course. Yeah, let's see what the quantum gateway brings us. Quantum gateway, portal, toof. We could totally steal that. Yeah, I don't think there's any other effect here. No, we can steal this though. Yeah, great suggestion. So let's see, we've got the UAB, again, unit Aeon building 03, that's the tech level 4. So we've got UAB 004. And we've got the script here, create attached emitter self.army.v a quantum ambient. All right. So we're going to need this ambient effect that we copy, not stealing. And then we need this effect here that I'd like to play. Now there's a bit of a catch here because this is an ambient effect, which means that it keeps playing, which means that if we turn it off, you kind of want to keep a reference to it. And this is best done by just creating a trash bag for it. So we can trash quantum ambient effects, or trash ambient effects is trash bag. So we create a new trash bag. Now this is not a magical value. There's a script called trash bag, and here's the class. And during the global init, we add that to the global scope. So that is why we have access to this trash bag here. And now we can add all of these effects to this trash bag that we have. So self trash effects, add this emitter that we have. This is the bone, if I'm not mistaken, but we have a whole bunch of documentation, anti-bone army emitter blueprint. So this is the bone. So let's look at the bone that we had here. This is the spin 02. So let's go for that. Spin 02. And then we have everything to turn it on. And then we want it go away again when we disable this. Destroy everything, trash ambient effects. Quantum optics facility. Let's see what we have. So it errors. Access right. It's trash back Pascal case. So that's for those unaware. You have camel case, which starts with a non-capital. What's a non-capital letter called? Regular letter? Anyway, it starts small and then uses capital letters for each word. And Pascal case doesn't really care and it uses a capital letter for each individual word. And this is Pascal case. Oh, lowercase. That's actually. Yeah, so lowercase, and then Pascal case uses an uppercase for every new word. No, or do that and then no, because I can't find the word. But let's see what happens. Epic. I have no idea. I put it on the spin thing, but apparently there's an offset to the yeah, that's because the spin thing is moving around. I do like it. Yeah. I have to give it to you. It's growing on me. I'm not really sure. Yeah. Yeah. This is unexpected, but I'm just gonna stick with it for now. See what happens. I do think that we could scale the effect slightly. So scale emitter. Maybe make it 0.6 because we don't want it to get outside of the skirt exactly. So now it's a bit smaller, a bit more in line with the scale of the unit. Whereas here it's really, yeah, I think this one's better. But that's you know, we can look into that. But now the question is, what are we going to do with the top part, right? Because we still have a bunch of effects and lights that we can do there. And yeah, probably. That it goes like this across the building. Yeah, I think it. Yeah, right now it sits on this center thing, and that's why it's moving around like that, because that thing is moving around. I think the position right now is pretty solid, but we're missing some effects, like for example with the shield generator, which it's not. Oh, that's a disruptor. But when you have the shield generator, it for example has these effects that go out. Yeah, yeah. No, I was thinking at the bottom. Because this fella here doesn't have that effect. Oh, this is where the offset comes from, right? That's the attachment point, and then there's an offset right there. Yeah, I have to give it to you. That's unexpected. No. Yeah, yeah, I agree. And it really fits the idea of the unit, right? And now it's no longer of the. Yeah, yeah. So if I stop scrying right now, I stop scrying, then the effect goes away. Yeah, because we clear the trash back here, right? When the so now the question is, what else do we need? That's that's a good point. I think that there are a few, like there should be some effect here at the base, and I feel like the top is being ignored a tiny bit. Maybe we can think of something there. Yeah. Maybe we're missing a bone right here at the top. Or some effect. Oh, like a laser. I like the idea of that. So every time that you change shaders like this, like the Halo 1 Halo 1 Forerunner structure that does like these things, that shoots the shoots this pulsar here into the sky. Something like that, maybe. That would be, so every time you do this, it goes like poof, and then goes like poof, and then people are just crying for the fact that they want their quantum optics facilities to go poof. All right. We can try. Oh, get this. Says can't scry there. Do that. Yeah, that's indeed not bad. So I improved the speed here. Is this is that the target speed? No, that's acceleration. Silly. Let's see what happens if we show that speed slightly. Oh, another fun fact: we're not clearing this back when the unit dies, but it does disappear. So being cleared somehow. Now I think this disable visible entity is called again when it. So a suggestion from I halo rotation much slower. I still check. So you make this ball rotation slower here. Yeah. Yeah, let's see what that looks like. Right, so this is the regular one we had. This is the poof. This is the faster one, and this is the slower one. I think this is too fast. Yeah, exactly. There's not enough emitters, no effects, particles. Yeah, but yeah, I'm wondering why. Maybe. Oh, I think because we made an error. Look. Yeah, because log create visible entity. I think that this one is not called in between successive, because there's a multiple effects on top of each other here. Let's see what happens. Create visible entity. Wait, see, it doesn't get deallocated again. You see that? So now we just keep stacking those effects. Exactly. So we need to keep track of whether or not we already did all of this. Exactly. So here we can say self.enabled. And then say and not self. And here we can say self dot scry. It's called scry name. Pascal case. Scry enable. There we go. So now, if we do this multiple times, then we shouldn't. See, now it doesn't get called twice. So that's why this one on the right was so excessive. Not because it was moving faster, but because the effect was being put on the same, was being applied multiple times. I think I do like the original speed up, because then it's just slightly faster in terms of this one feels a bit slow. Oh, whoops. Nah, I think 60 is good. Because then the effect is a bit more on top of each other. So 60. We can always change this later. Let's not stay on that for too long. Alright. So now the question is, what else does this unit need? Suggestions from the audience. Thank you. Okay, yeah, we can do that. We can just make that smaller. So that would be something like this. Then we need to make separate emitters for that. Let's see what happens if we do this. I kind of do like it actually if it goes outside of the building. That gives it this uniqueness to it, to some sense. So let's see how this one. Yeah, but the issue if we spin inside the building is that we get a lot of clipping, I think, right now, of the effect. You see that? It's clipping with the mesh. Right? We can... Let's make it 25. See how that looks like. But then, what else do we need to add to this? Because I didn't really have a plan besides applying the animation, make it rotate and... Yeah. I agree. Yeah. 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 I think I agree that it's more impressive if it's outside of the structure than if it's in. Yeah. So that is somewhere here in the all right. What would we put there then? What do other structures have? Like, what does a radar have? I think the radar just has this basic, yeah, doesn't really have any effects. Aeon units. Let's see, we've got. I don't think there is, but let's just maybe we can do some kind of energy burst effect, like yeah. No, we can still do that. We can maybe make a dummy projectile that shoots up directly from the top. No, there's no finalized effect. At least I didn't. Why is her name here? Def Nuke. Oh, that's the weapon debug, I think. That's very informative. I don't know. He's just yeah. Oh well. It's that. We have the Aeon commander. We have a quantum field, which is the stun field, right? Isn't that called quantum? No, chrono dampener. Yeah, but it's a stasis field. Quantum stasis field. So now if I would have some... Let's do Mantis. Oh, you need to respawn the unit and then you can see stuff. Okay. This is a stun effect. Don't think it's really that impressive, but yeah, so it's really strong. Like this is yeah, this is really strong. This effect. Why does my commander not do any damage? Maybe that's the weapon debug. All right. It's not this, right? So that's yeah. I'll be honest. I don't know what this information is telling me. I think this is the range. Is the range? But I was hoping. Yeah, I was hoping to see that, but it's not really doing that. Yeah, but like we can decolor that. I'm not seeing. No. Yeah, that's the name of the weapon. That's the label. That's a bit sad. Oh well. No, I would have wanted that. That would be nice. Yeah. All right. Let's see what we have though. We could go into the projectile direction where we fire a projectile. One issue with that is that if people spam the scry ability, then you spam that projectile. So maybe we shouldn't go with a projectile that goes all the way up. maybe more just like an where would we put that though? On the structure? Well, we can ask Max to put one up there. He's in the chat, I think. Yeah, he is. Oh yeah, yeah, that's another solution. Okay, so let's just try this little effect here. We also have, I think, the strategic bomber launches quantum quark bomb. That sounds quantum-ish. Yeah, I agree. That's a bit much. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Okay, let's get this effect that we have right here. So we have the armored command unit. That's L U L 000. And then we have the disruptor cannon weapon, I think, which we find here, which has muzzle. No. I am a bit lost. Yeah, I think yeah. I think for the purpose of the YouTube video, I'm gonna call it a day. There's still some tweaks that we need to do to make sure everything is part of the trash bag, like these two and this one here too. But that's something that I'll just do in the pull request. But about Max, is this kind of what you imagined it to be? Yeah, I'm still pleasantly surprised by this effect. Yeah, I agree. It needs something else, but let's not make this video longer than an hour. And let's just finish this up then. Git stage, git commit, add rotators, animators, and emitters to exhibit. Yes, skill them too. And then yeah, so that's it. So the purpose of this session was primarily to show that when you do start out, you're not on your own, right? There is this whole repository, assuming that you use Visual Studio Code, it's under Ctrl-Shift-F, that allows you to just find tons of examples. And as with the other video, there's even more examples in, for example, map scripts. Say, for example, that you want to make a defense rifle. Then you can just open up the map script, search through that. Or if you want to make a campaign map, there's campaign maps out there. Like, for example, I had one here somewhere. But there are campaign maps, and if you would be interested in how those work, then you can search for that again. And then we have the base game files, right? Where you can just go to game data, and this is where all the other files are that are not part of the repository. Now, what I did for myself is I made this place called a workspace, and I just put everything in there that I find remotely interesting. that I would like to use as an example somehow. And then in this workspace that I gave a different color using the Peacock extension, which is this one that allows you to change the color of your workspace. That way it's always very clear. This is the repository. This is my workspace. And this contains all the examples because it has all the base code in it. So if I search here for Create Rotator, then I'm probably going to find more references than I would find in the repository itself. Right? And I would highly recommend you that as time passes, as you make more contributions or work on more of your maps or mods, that you start working on gathering this workspace that you can use to query, to look for answers, to look, hey, I found this function, but how do I use it? And then you become a lot more self-sustaining and you can ask all of the difficult questions in modding general in, for example, the FAF Discord. By all means, all questions are welcome, but you'll find out that it's very interesting and very fun to find the solution yourself instead of being told the solution. So with that said, we're gonna sum up this session. We started with projectiles, then we did more projectiles, and now we end up with this interesting looking structure, especially considering that we started with this, right? Nothing's moving, very static. And just feeling. I'll see you next time.